and the guest pass he swore he never uses, the night the steam room knew his name. At 9:17 p.m., my phone congratulated me for going to the gym with a man I'd never met. "Welcome back, member," the banner chirped, cheerful as a maitre d' who knows your alias. "Guest pass redeemed for two at Orion Athletic Club. Enjoy the steam and evening eucalyptus." Under it, the line that tilted my stomach like a tray, "Guest, Eve added by Leo," and a tasteful emoji of two towels folded into the idea of birds. Leo is mine, or as much as anyone can be in a city that keeps teaching you about borrowed nouns. He'd left it 8 in the jacket that flatters him even when mirrors go evangelical. "Wrap toast," he'd said, 2 words that make celebration sound audited. Then notes with Rafe. "Don't wait." Rafe handles sound. He carries microphones like small animals that forget they bite and listens like air with tenure. The cinnamon thing in the oven made a case for mercy while refusing to define it. The apartment's light climbed the wall in obedient squares and declined to narrate me. We keep the club app on my phone because I'm the one who forgets towels. Guest passes live there too, in a little icon that pretends to be generous. Leo swore he never used them. "Too salesy," he'd said, which is his way of absolving himself without religion. Tonight, the icon did its job and the truth pretended to be a coupon. I put on the jacket that knows how to mind its own business and walked into air that had decided to be honest. The club greets you with eucalyptus that costs more than rent used to. Marble convinces shoes to behave. Behind the desk, a man with posture designed by Pilates scanned me with friendliness you can expense. "Back again?" he asked, eyes flicking with professional accuracy to my name on his screen. "Guest already inside with your partner." "Right," I said, because when you're walking toward pain, it helps to carry fewer bags. I took the white towel they offer to people who believe in redemption arcs and followed the corridor where the air gets humid and decisive. Men talk differently near steam. Even their laughter wears robes. The locker room hummed the pitch of secrets that think they're stretching. I passed rows of wooden doors like confessions with locks. At the end of the tile, by the sign that promises cleanliness as a sacrament, the steam room exhaled a ghost and asked for my name. In the milky light, silhouettes took on the modesty of myth. A shoulder I know leaned against the bench, relaxed in the way he never manages at home unless he solved a problem I didn't know he had. Next to him, a longer silhouette sat with the care of a man who had stopped being complicated in the exact ways that keep you employed. The steam made everyone plural. I stood in the doorway and let the humidity decide who I was going to be. Leo looked up first because my body is his fluency. For a heartbeat, we were boys hiding in a princess's backyard, waiting to be scolded for liking the wrong games. Then adulthood landed on his face like weather. "Mac," he said, my name with the softness of a receipt. Eve, if Eve is who the app thinks he is, didn't flinch. He did something better. He placed his palms on the bench as if about to stand and then didn't, granting me the option of dignity. He had the posture of a man who is good at listening without auditioning. The steam softened his edges into courtesy. "Not here," Leo said quickly, eyes flicking to the corner where the fog thinned and a tiny dark cave in the ceiling pretended not to be a camera. He rose with that awkward grace men learn from shirts that haven't dried fully and gestured toward the cold plunge courtyard, a rectangle of night and chlorinated pennants. "There's air." Outside, under a string of lights pretending to be stars, we stood like the beginnings of a fresco. The pool wore a calm surface it didn't deserve. The eucalyptus kept talking to anyone who needed an alibi. Leo's chest steamed like an argument dissolving. "I lied when I left," he said. He does not waste adjectives when he intends to be correct. Rap happened. People used their best grammar on goodbye. I wanted 30 minutes where being interesting didn't have to pass inspection. Rafe asked a question. Eve answered it later with silence. I mistook that for permission. Are you sleeping with him? The question is a cliff. There isn't a scenic route. You count to one and make your mouth earn its keep. Not yet, he said, clean, immediate. Then lower, the honesty that knows exactly which muscle wants to bruise. I brought my mouth. Wind knuckled my spine and decided to stay. I stepped close because cold is an argument I like winning. I lifted 2 fingers to the soft place inside his wrist where men keep their apologies and felt his pulse write my name there without permission. His eyes closed like doors that expect hands. Under my palm at the small of his back, where his body keeps its best arguments, heat was already paying rent. My hand remembered the route. You like wanting that proves something kindness can't, I said. I didn't make it cruel. Cruelty is lazy precision. You treat intimacy like a sport and honesty like off-season training. You like to coach, he said, a tired smile trying to be employed. Which is unfair and also why we still have furniture. What do you want? I asked. Right now, not the apology you drafted for daylight. He stepped into the inch that becomes a lie if you respect it too long. Heat crossed cotton and towel like a fact not seeking votes. He spoke close enough that punctuation found my lower lip. I want to go home, he said. I want you to want me where our towels remember us and desire doesn't need a guest pass. A splash from the plunge interrupted us like God trying to be subtle. I didn't kiss him there. I put my thumb against the hinge of his jaw, the place truth keeps a spare key, and let the eucalyptus pretend it wasn't watching. We returned to the locker room where Eve had the good manners of an exit. He stood, wrapped himself with the competence of a man who is polite to the future, and nodded as if returning a library book we'd forgotten we owned. Up close he had that clean linen and ink calm some men wear instead of cologne. You'll want the room, he said, not absence, logistics. He met my eyes for exactly a second, the way people do when they are asking to be furniture on purpose. Then he left without touching either of us. We didn't, Leo began. Don't do that to the air, I said. I hung my towel on the hook like a white flag thrown by someone who still expected to keep fighting later. Finish sentences at home. We walked past men who were rehearsing better versions of themselves for mirrors. The desk nodded us out into a city that had not changed its mind about lights. At the corner, a bus sighed with professional disappointment. We made the long route on foot because short routes lie. At home, the cinnamon had kept faith beyond the call of sugar. We ate it at the counter with our fingers because forks would have lied. He leaned into the drawer that sticks, the posture that means he is willing to be moved and wants me to be precise about where. I slid my palm under his t-shirt and found heat like an address that still prints both our names on the mail. He tipped into me, gratitude giving him weight and accuracy. We were careful in bed, not the kind of careful that kills heat, the kind that knows where to fold it so the room won't have to testify. He knows where to set his hand on my ribs so the rest of me turns without issuing a press release. I know where his shoulder hides when it runs out of brave, and how to coax it into telling the truth with weight and breath, and a mouth that has stopped trying to rescue him and still wants him. I won't draw you the choreography. I'll tell you the room remembered to breathe and morning, forgave us, because it had other work. We slept like people who aren't finished. Light shouldered the blinds with the confidence of a suggestion. He made coffee the way he does when he wants me to listen. The gym app lived between us on the table like a witness that didn't understand jurisdiction. Guest. Eve Keystone the top of the receipt, self-incriminating and assured. He started with small truths because small truths keep larger ones upright. The steam makes my body feel like a room I can afford, he said. Rafe talks to me like he expects me to have spare oxygen. Eve listens like silence is a profession. I wanted to be wanted without our history chewing on the edges. Did he kiss you back? I asked. Not because the answer changes the geometry, but because it modernizes the math. No, he said. He told me I was saying the sentence in the wrong room. He looked at the coffee that had chosen to be honest. He said, "You seem like someone who knows where home is. Go there." I hated him for being right and liked him more for it. Do you want to be here? I asked. The verb had to be present and unsubtle. Yes, he said. To be boring with you on purpose. To put the heat where the towels remember us. To stop acting like the interesting version of me is the expensive one. We made boring plans because boring is how you keep lives from becoming memorabilia. We deactivated guest passes in the app and set a rule that requires both of us to approve one if mercy is needed for an out-of-town cousin or a forgotten towel. We wrote a note with a Sharpie and taped it inside a cupboard where the mugs argue. If one of us craves 30 minutes of attention from someone else, call it a craving, not a crisis. Walk it to the river. Spend it on pastry mean enough to bully your mouth away from metaphors. It isn't romantic. It's maintenance. It's oil for the hinge that keeps the door from learning to shout. 2 afternoons later, I saw Eve outside a cafe that smells like ambition and lemon, the city's favorite lie. He gave me the nod men use when they've chosen to be furniture on purpose. We stood by the chalkboard where soups try to be wise. I'm not asking to be thanked, he said, the exactness of a man who calibrates his syllables. He kissed me once. I told him he was saying the sentence in the wrong room. I like my bed for sleeping and the version of him that has to earn mornings. You could have said nothing, I said. You could have decorated the worst, he answered. This is cheaper for both of us. He looked at the street as if sound were something visible when it behaves. You don't need my testimony, but if it steadies you, nothing worth deleting happened. It steadies, I said, and felt a floor arrive under a day that had been refusing shoes. We didn't become friends. We became men who share an interest in someone else's better choice. There are less noble clubs. A week later at 9:17 again, as if the hour had applied for tenure, the app pinged with a push that wore the wrong cologne. We miss you, Mac. Bring a friend with 2 free guest passes. Across the room, Leo was already shaking his head with that small, honest smile that moves furniture. He took my phone, hit unsubscribe, and typed no guests into the tiny text box meant for reasons. Then he looked at me and set his palm where my back keeps its heat, holding it the way punctuation holds a paragraph together. We recalibrated evenings. We chose the bakery over the steam when a day needed scrubbing. We let the plant live a little longer than it deserved and rewarded it with the window. On certain nights when the city forgets to be clever, his mouth finds mine with the urgency that belongs to thunderstorms and the patience that belongs to laundry. We stay just on the lawful side of the line because good heat doesn't need choreography to be true. When it's done with us, when we are done with it, he rests his hand at the small of my back like a bookmark that always knows the right page. Sometimes the app still sends smug little summaries. Calories burned, 0 rest day. Eucalyptus used, 0. I don't trust them. I trust the square of light at 4 when it climbs our wall like an idea that finally put on shoes. I trust the bowl that catches our phones like obedient coins. I trust the way his hand finds my ribs without asking for a key card or a guest pass. It would be neat if the story ended there. It didn't. Nothing good ends, it develops rituals. One evening, walking home, we passed the club entrance as two men, new boys minted from Steam, laughed the laugh of people daring the city to tell them which nouns they belonged to. Leo watched them like someone who has made a small, permanent peace with a weather system. He reached for my hand halfway, changed his mind, and let it hover open, palm up, not insisting, a question without a mark. I put my hand in his because sometimes symbols deserve overtime. If my phone ever again congratulates me on a guest pass I didn't authorize, if a room tries to lend my life to someone else's Steam, I know the script we intend to prefer. I'll look at him, and he'll look at me, and we'll decide, quietly, domestically, with the stubborn mercy of people who keep choosing, to side with our kitchen over the marble, our chipped mugs over someone else's folded towels, this particular door learning, over and over, to open from the inside. Two small footnotes, because lives adore encores. First, I changed his contact from Leo to Leo, home. Hyphens don't perform miracles, they do administrative grace. When my hand forgets itself at 3:17, the dash persuades it to put the phone down and reach for a person. Second, I kept the original screenshot, the one that says guest, Eve added by Leo with two towels behaving like birds, not to punish us, to remember the hinge where the evening swung. A tidy rectangle proving that a Steam room can mistake itself for a story, and that two men, if they are stubborn enough, can choose a kitchen where the air doesn't need eucalyptus to be forgiven.